Hello and welcome to this Forex Preview at xm.com. We'll be discussing the ECB's first interest rate decision of 2023, due out on Thursday, and the potential reaction in the euro. I'm Maria Pachurdiz, and joining me is Senior Investment Analyst Marios Hadjikyriacos. So Marios, before the ECB's rate decision on Thursday, we'll get monthly inflation numbers for the Eurozone on Wednesday. How is the Eurozone economy doing at the moment? And what are markets expecting regarding the size of the rate hike?
Hello, Maria. The Eurozone economy is doing surprisingly better. So let's rewind the clock. Let's go back 3 or 4 months. Everybody was concerned about a deep recession in Europe. The energy crisis was in full swing. And essentially the argument was, if you get a cold winter and therefore demand for energy and heating is very high, that's going to make for a brutal recession in Europe. Now, fast forward back to today, that hasn't happened. Europe had one of the mildest winters it's had in decades. It's unseasonably warm in Europe. So that means less demand for heating, less demand for energy, lower energy prices, and voila, there hasn't been any recession. So if you look at business surveys, the business surveys are saying, yes, the Eurozone economy might be contracting slightly, but it's looking more like a slightly stagnant economy instead of a recession. So we got the weather really rescued Europe this time around, and that has been reflected in the euro as well. We've seen the single currency perform quite well. Now, inflation though is still there. It's coming down, but it's still extremely high, so that creates a problem for the European Central Bank, which meets on Thursday. Now, the markets have fully priced in a 50 basis points rate increase after President Lagarde essentially pre-committed to that at the latest meeting. She essentially said, we have to keep raising rates. We'll probably do it in 50 basis points increments, probably in the next meeting in February, and perhaps in the next meeting after that in March. So the markets already have a really good idea of what the ECB is going to do. The markets have fully priced in the 50 basis points rate increase for this week. Therefore, the market reaction will really come down to what does President Lagarde say during the press conference. Does she chart the path for several more rate increases, March and maybe April or May after that, or does she take a more cautious approach? I'm in the camp that says she's probably going to sound hawkish. She's probably going to stress how high inflation is, how resilient the economy has been, and that might be a slightly favorable message for the euro.
So regarding the euro, what's the short and longer term outlook for the currency?
Yeah, so we might get a positive reaction on the ECB if they sound as hawkish as they have been in recent weeks. And if you look at the euro's chart, it's been a very steep uptrend since the lows back in September, October. Now that uptrend had to do with the weather patterns that we discussed, but also there was a lot of optimism about China's economic reopening, and crucially for me, there was a lot of dollar weakness in there because some liquidity was added back into the US system, the US financial system. That was negative for the dollar. The dollar underperformed quite a bit. I'm not sure this can continue for much longer. So the market has already traded most of these themes. We know that the weather was favorable in Europe. We've known for China's economic reopening. The dollar story, the dollar weakness is getting a little bit stale as well. So looking forward 3 or 6 months, I see a tougher environment for the euro. Yes, the Eurozone economy has been resilient so far because the weather really helped us, but we're still raising interest rates really aggressively, and the Eurozone economy might not be able to handle that for very long. So a different way of saying that is, yes, the economy is doing well today because we avoided a harsh energy crisis, but higher interest rates are ultimately going to come back and bite the Eurozone. So I'm not particularly favorable about the euro. I see the risks from here as treated to the downside, and a lot of that might also depend with how the global economy unfolds. If the global recession does play out, that favors a stronger dollar and a weaker euro.
Marios, thanks so much. And thanks for joining us at XM.com.